Welcome to Stay Paid Real Estate Marketing. Unlock the secrets of success in the real estate world, where each episode delivers valuable tips and strategies to elevate your marketing game and help you succeed in both life and business. Brought to you by Reminder Media.
Welcome to Stay Paid. My name is Joshua Stike.
And I'm Luke Akery.
And it is holiday themed. We are a week, what are we? We're 5 days away from Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
What's your favorite Christmas tradition, my man?
My favorite Christmas tradition? So many. I enjoy...
Eating, right?
I enjoy eating. I enjoy doing stockings like Christmas Eve.
Dude, I got the quote of the show for you written down here by our producer, Ethan.
Yeah.
He just said this about speaking of eating.
Speaking of eating.
He said,
speaking of the new year.
He said,
did you actually write this one down?
Is he pulling this up?
He goes,
he's like pulling it up.
Yeah, he's like, you know what upsets me the most in life? And this is just a combo we were just having, guys. He goes, you know what upsets me the most in life? I spent my skinny years thinking I was fat. And I was like, man, I've never related to something more in my life. Not just the idea of like, you always think like you are
You're never
just,
pleased.
Yeah, you're never pleased with yourself. And then you look back and go, it wasn't that bad. Yeah. I'm sure everybody can, especially around the holidays, attest to that.
Yeah, eating is definitely a fun tradition. But today, we are not talking about eating or weight or anything really.
Nothing that has to do with Christmas or eating. We're just wasting
We
your
are
time,
going to be talking about how to manage and motivate great teams. So if you're a leader of a team or you're a business owner, obviously one of the things that you've probably had to go through and may have struggled with is how to find good talent, number one, right? How to then manage that talent, how to motivate that talent so that they stick and you have that leverage in your business to help you continue to grow and scale.
So we pull up my notes here.
Yeah, so we got 10 points, I think I said we want to go over.
We'll roll through them.
So the first one of our 10 is you got to make sure that you're establishing clear goals and expectations.
You know how John Maxwell says everything rises and falls with leadership?
Yeah.
I really think that is true, but I think the illness of all problems in companies comes from lack of good communication and lack of good setting of expectations.
Yep.
And if I look at all the problems in our business with people, it always comes down to the expectations that were set, and there wasn't clarity, and there wasn't good goal set, and there wasn't good verification happening.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, I know I fall into this trap where I think people will do it like I want them to do it just magically, like, oh, they'll read my mind.
Yeah,
they'll know exactly what I'm going for.
They know what we're going for.
It's like, no, you have to actually you have to develop the skill set of being able to take that end result that you desire and how to then communicate those expectations to your team.
And I would tell people that don't use the excuse that we're all headed to the same vision, so I got to give them autonomy. Yeah. That's an excuse.
Yeah.
That just means you're not wanting to. And I'm there, right? I've done it, and I still do it to this day. It's like you give yourself an excuse going, well, I don't want to micromanage, or I don't want to step in. It's not about that. It's about getting on the same page of expectations and clarity of goal. They can be a part of determining those expectations and goals if you want it that way, but have to have that.
Which rolls perfectly into number 2, which is to foster open and regular communication with your teams.
Yeah, this is, to me, like about telling it like it is. And it's like 5 dysfunctions of a team is you can't have a great team without trust, and you can't have trust without healthy conflict, and you can't have healthy conflict without clear and open communication. Yeah. So not only is it about having hard combos, but it's about having combos frequently. Right. And I think of what we just did with our senior leadership team, right? Mm-hmm. We weren't hitting goals. We had things falling through the cracks. So what did we do? We took our monthly meeting down to weekly because things get solved when people come together and they talk things out and they work together to a common goal and they stay on top of things. I know when we've had products fail, I know you lead product and we have some tech stuff that is not happening. What do? You go to a daily check-in of open communication, right? We're solving it with more.
5 times a daily.
Yeah, exactly. 5 times a day. But the point we're trying to make is like, a lot of people maybe are like, no, that seems too much. No, it's not too much. You need to have open and regular communication with your people. Our sales team does a sales team huddle every single morning, right? It's a difference maker. And those things get boring and mundane and they feel like wasted times in certain seasons. But the truth is, you are underestimating.
You never understand the value of a meeting like that until you stop having it. And then a month later you go, well, what happened? We were doing so well. And now it's because of that lack of communication. Yep. Number 3, this kind of goes in or maybe even bucks a little bit against our first point, but it's this idea of empowering and trusting your team. Like, how do you set the expectations to empower and then trust them?
You can only empower and trust if you have great open communication and clear goals.
Yep.
Right? So it's like it feels like maybe at surface level it bucks against, but the truth is it's the natural progression. If you set clear goals, you have regular communication around those goals, then in those breaks of communication, you empower people, go make the decision. Not only that, in the setting of those goals, empower people to be a part of that. You brought them in, hopefully you hired smarter people than you.
Yeah.
Right? That's the goal. If somebody teaches you something or I shouldn't say it this way, I should say it this way. When you're interviewing somebody for a job, you should be looking to see, are they going to teach you anything?
Yeah.
Are they educating you? Why? Because they should know more than you about that position if you're bringing them to help you in that position, in that area. So if I'm hiring a software dev, I sure hope that dev knows more than me about development than I do, right? Type idea. Now, that's not always true if you're hiring for something that you are the direct manager over. But a lot of times in business, you're hiring people for a specific job that you don't know how to do, and you're trying to go get expertise for it.
Yeah, I like the other thing this says here. When you empower and trust your teams, you're actually encouraging and creating an environment for creativity, innovation for them to problem solve, bring new ideas to the organization.
Yeah.
Number 4, recognize and appreciate achievements. Man, this is one that I probably struggle with the most. I know that this is a failure on my part. I do not.
Yeah, I do not feel recognized by you, dude.
And achievements enough. Yeah.
Ethan, do you feel recognized by Josh?
I do feel recognized by that.
I told you.
Sure, yeah.
Just even in the voice.
Yeah.
No,
He said thanks once after a podcast.
Yeah, complimenting people, recognizing them, it's so critical, and it's like you need to be intentional. Like every senior leadership meeting, what am I doing now? I'm giving a space and time at the start of the agenda. Does anybody have anybody they want to shout out, recognize here at the senior leadership table?
Positive that happened.
Positive that happened. I've had to be intentional about it because it's not natural to me. Yeah. So I had to put it into the agenda. But the truth is, that's how you get good at things. That's how they become natural. You put them into agendas, you put them into calendars, and they become habits.
Yep.
And pretty soon, give us 6 months to a year of doing it, and we'll just naturally do it.
Yep.
I hope.
Rolling into number 5 then, going along with that, promote a positive and supportive work environment. So again, we're talking about how to create and motivate great teams. You want to make sure you're promoting a positive and supportive work environment. What does that mean to you?
So here's why I believe that's a critical one for leadership. A leader is not supposed to speak in the glass is half empty. A leader is supposed to speak in the glass is half full. Doesn't mean you don't play in reality, but you're not sitting here today trying to tell people the reality of how hard it is to put a rocket ship on Mars. No, you're speaking into the vision and the positivity behind what you're going to accomplish. And so you take that all the way down is, I believe, the teams that move the best are the teams that feel the safest. The teams that feel the safest, they will have all these points that we've established here. You got to establish clear goals. You got to foster open communication. You got to empower and trust your team. You got to recognize them. And then you've got to literally, in an environment, culture-wise, create a culture that is energy-wise is positive, that you're not talking about negative things every time you get on a meeting. So I always tell my sales leaders this: you praise in public, you discipline in private. You're creating this culture of positivity where it's like, hey, look, we're going to show up today and we're going to change the world. And if you don't want to change the world, if you don't want a book written about what we've done, not from an ego standpoint, but from an accomplishment standpoint, then you don't belong here.
Yeah.
Now, some people listening to this might be like, well, that's not reality. But I promise you, my company that has that type of attitude and that type of positive work culture and that type of openness is going to beat your company that's sitting there glass half full.
Great little easy read book, a little parable called The Energy Bus. Talks a lot about that idea of like bringing a positive energy to the workplace as well. Number 6 is to encourage professional development.
Yeah, so this is plays into this positive work environment where you're promoting positivity of the vision and but you're also promoting positivity of what you can achieve as a person. So it's like Ethan, you and I were talking the other day, right? And I was giving some feedback on what I want to see, but my whole goal is to go, hey man, you are the artist. I want you to own this. I want you to be proud of what the content you're putting out, that you're literally like your friends are like, holy crap, look at the content. Look how many views they're getting. Look how many people are looking at what he does, because I want you to develop in your craft. The same applies for me, right? It's like I want people that are around me constantly developing, and I want myself to constantly be developing. It's the habit book, Atomic Habits. You want to get 1% better every single day.
Yeah.
And when you have a leader that is pushing you to get 1% better every single day, that's the company you want to work
And clearing a path, actually, and creating the the environment in which you can do
If
that.
you're not growing, you're dying.
Number 7, provide opportunities for growth for your team.
Yes. So we just lost somebody that is I would call an A-plus talent, A-level talent, and we lost them. And I think the reason we lost them is because we weren't providing for them opportunities of growth. So when you have your one-on-ones with your people, it has to be really clear what's their next steps and how do they get there.
Yeah.
And there is opportunity there. I often tell people, man, it's unlimited opportunity. We just got to go get it.
Yeah.
So it's like, using, Ethan, not to pick on you, but you're just in the room, but using you as an example, it's like, what is the next step that you want to go to, right? You're the producer of our state page. You're doing our social media, all that stuff. What's the next step that you want in your personal life? And how do we use Reminder Media as a vehicle to give you those skills, to give you that opportunity and that ability? Because if we can, guess what? You're going to come into work happier. You're going to come into work more driven. You're going to stay here longer. You're going to produce more. You're going to fight harder because you see that growth happening for you and it's been laid out. But most people do what you talked about in the first one, right? Which is they think people know that they can grow here. I mean, we're growing. You can grow here. It's like, no, let me lay this out for you.
Yep, exactly. Number 8, value work-life balance. So recognizing the importance of work-life balance for employees' well-being.
Yeah, probably in my early years, I was subject to the hustle culture. I still believe people need to work hard. I still believe they need to be obsessed. But I also believe you got to value people's personal time. And you got to value the things that they value because A players want to do great work.
Yeah.
So if an A player, for instance, has a family and they're trying to leave at 6 o'clock, I don't care that they leave at 6 o'clock when our business closes. I want them to have that time with their family because that time with their family is going to energize them, recharge them, and is going to bring back them in. I'm going to judge them on the results of their work, not on how long they worked.
Yeah.
And that's probably a newer thing that I've learned over the last few years.
I think kids help that.
I think so. I also think that ultimately I realized that you're not dealing with the root issue, which is you don't have an A player. Right? You're trying to get a B player or a C player, and you're trying to force them into this box because you don't have an A player. But A players, I don't worry about. A player, you do whatever you want. I don't worry about because you're generating the results.
Yep.
Right?
Number 9 is to address conflicts constructively. So this kind of goes back to
we have a whole podcast on this, so we don't have to spend a ton of time on it. But
how to have difficult conversations. Yeah, search that up on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, that one I would encourage you guys to go listen to because it's a whole 15, 20-minute podcast in of itself. It's super valuable.
That, yeah.
Our HR director actually heard us do the podcast and then used the podcast as a whole training for all of our managers across our organization of structuring out because it's the hardest thing for people to do is have constructive feedback.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you the reason, just one nugget I'll give you is the reason why it's so hard to have constructive feedback is because you don't do it often. If you make it an often thing, then it is not a weird thing.
Yep.
But because you hardly ever do it when you give feedback.
Where's this coming from?
Exactly. It makes people feel weird, and then you're weird because you haven't done it a lot.
Number 10, love this one. I used to be so much better at this. I need to get back at doing this. It's to seek feedback and continuous improvement for yourself. So that whole seeking feedback piece, I personally have slacked off on doing that.
We hired a new VP of sales for our postcard division, and she's crushing it. But one of the things that she's implementing, one is she talks about how feedback's a gift.
Yeah.
And like she tells her team members, feedback's a gift. Any feedback you give me is really a gift to me. But then the thing she's implementing, she's going and doing what's called a stay interview. So at companies, a lot of times they do exit interviews. Why are you exiting? Why are you leaving? She's doing a stay interview. She's going to all employees that are still here on the team and going, why do you stay? What is it that you love about this place?
Yeah.
What is it that keeps you here? And she goes, a lot of times we try to fix things in our organization, but we don't realize in fixing maybe an error that they're seeing in the exit interview, you're also hurting one of the reasons why they stay. And so you got to know both ends and it's seeking that feedback. I thought that's a really good golden nugget. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. There you go. There are 10 tips for how to manage and motivate great teams. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you want to get the show notes, you can head on over to staypaidpodcast.com. And if you're looking for ways to support the show, head on over to Apple Podcasts, drop us a 5-star review, and let someone else know about this episode. We really appreciate all of you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody listening.
Happy holidays.
I hope you enjoy your holidays with family.
Yes.
However you choose to spend them.
Don't eat too much.
Don't eat too much.
Don't spend your skinny days thinking you're fat.
What would you say, Luke, is the best Christmas present?
True love.
Incorrect. It's a broken drum. You just can't beat it. That drum
now
worked.
it's fixed.
All right, there's fixed. If you want to get hold of me or Luke, you can email us at podcast@remindermedia.com, or you can follow us on Instagram. We are at Stay Paid Podcast. For this episode of Stay Paid, I am Joshua Stike.
And I'm Luke Akery. Obviously, you could choose from any of these 10 points as the action item, but the action item I'll give you that's the most critical in my book is establishing clear goals and expectations. You can't be a great leader if you're not leading people to somewhere. And that needs to be established. And you have to establish that and get people on board of where you're going. That's probably the most important to actually open up any of the other things. But remember this, the difference between top producers and mediocre producers is top producers take action. So out of that 10 list, take action on one of those. Take action today.